Hi, friends. Welcome to the Full and Thriving podcast. I'm your host, Meg McCabe, and if you're here, it means you're ready for some aha moments that will inspire you to create a more vibrant, authentic life that's full of joyful moments, deeper connections, inner peace, and courageous action towards your dreams. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Full and Thriving. Today, I have a solo episode for you where I'll be sharing about what it's been like for me to be a fully recovered person with an eating disorder history going through pregnancy. So I'll be talking about things like how did I manage the body changes? How did I handle the cravings? What did I think about all the weight gain? And I'll also be sharing a recent update that added a major twist to the pregnancy journey for me. So buckle on in because today is going to be a personal update episode of Full and Thriving. Today, I am recording from my office in my house in West Hartford, Connecticut, and it's been exactly 1 year since Dan and I moved into our dream home, and I am currently 34 weeks pregnant as I'm speaking to all of you right now. And before I dive in to all of the details of my pregnancy journey, I want to acknowledge how much privilege I have to be able to be in this situation, first of all, and to be having a child to begin with. I know there are many people with eating disorders or health issues or chronic health issues that miss out on the opportunity to have children due to these circumstances. And I also know that infertility is a huge stressor and emotional journey for many families trying to have children. So if you are in that situation, I just want to, first of all, extend my deepest compassion for you. And I want to remind you that you do not have to listen to this episode if the idea of pregnancy is triggering for you in any way. This entire experience has really given me an opportunity to see exactly how much health privilege I have that I live with. And I am truly grateful in this moment to be pregnant and to be a mom. And I am super excited about the entire thing. And I really feel blessed to be in this situation. And I want to share my journey with all of you today to give you a sense of hope, because when I had my eating disorder, I lost my period for several years. And we all know that when you lose your period, you cannot conceive. So there was a point in my life where this privilege was not possible for me. And a big part of my recovery journey was the motivation to get my period back so that I could become a mom one day. Okay, so 34 weeks in, that means I have less than 6 weeks before baby Hardy gets here, which I'm super excited. We actually have picked out a name for him, which I am going to share with you now. We plan to name him Jack Donovan Hardy. We feel like we love every Jack we've really met in our lives. Many stories have protagonists named Jack, and Donovan and Jack are actually nods to family names as well. So Dan's biological grandfather had the last name Jakubowski. So we're going to be naming our child Jack as a nod to that. And then my grandma's maiden name, and I am obsessed with my grandma. I love her so much. Her maiden name was Donovan. So we're going to name him Jack Donovan. And keeping the name family oriented felt right for both of us, especially since we are both very rooted into the value of family. And it's just something that felt really special and meaningful. And we had some cool names in the family that we could choose from. So it really worked out. I also want to share that I've always wanted to become a mom. And I like to say that my future children, or in this case, Jack, saved my life because my need to become a mom was my greatest reason for why I went into recovery. And I've known I wanted to be a mom my whole life. I know that's not necessarily everyone's path, but it was definitely something I really wanted to have for myself in my life. So when I had an eating disorder, I decided to recover because I wasn't getting my period and knew I needed to restore that to start a family one day. So now, 11 to 12 years later, I'm finally going to meet Jack, the baby who I attribute helping my recovery and getting me here to where I am now. So it's full circle, really amazing. I can't believe the years I had way before that to become a mom, but here I am at age 33, ready to go. So let's dive in. First of all, as someone who has struggled with body image and survived and fully recovered from an eating disorder, I always wondered what pregnancy would be like and how it would feel for me, especially with that history. And I wondered what it would feel like to have my body change so rapidly and to experience things like pregnancy cravings and the consistent weight gain, etc. I've heard women in recovery, especially as I talk one-on-one with them, really have trepidation about becoming a mom because they don't want to destroy all the hard work of recovery that they've put in, because a lot of pregnancy sounds like it could be a really triggering situation for many women who are trying to maintain their recovery and be protective of it. So having many conversations, I've always been really curious, like, how am I going to respond to pregnancy? What is that going to feel like? What's going to come up for me? So I really want to share with you what's come up for me and how the entire experience has been. I will say the beginning of pregnancy was relatively smooth for me. I didn't have the rough first trimester that so many people talk about. So there was really minimal nausea or exhaustion. I definitely had some sprinkling of that, but it would go away when I had a snack, essentially. And I was able to exercise regularly throughout the whole first trimester into the second trimester. I kind of stopped after probably like 16, 17 weeks along doing anything like intense. During the first trimester, I actually got married at 10 weeks and went on my honeymoon on week 11. So during that time, I was consistently torn between wedding planning and baby excitement. And I feel like the baby excitement really took over at times. I even had my bachelorette party during that time. So I had no drinks, which is not typical for a bachelorette party in America. And I never had expected that being my situation, but it ended up being one of the most fun weekends of my life. So first trimester went by pretty fast, especially because we had the wedding chaos. We actually announced the pregnancy at the wedding, which was really fun. We were hoping to do a gender reveal, but we just weren't far along enough to know if we were having a girl or a boy. But we did have the wedding announcement, and that was super fun. And I feel really lucky because I felt super energized and relatively normal on that day. We ended up going to Miami for our honeymoon, probably around week 11. And I did experience some big time nausea on one of our pool days, which was strange to me. It felt like the second I got in the pool, I felt sick. So there was a day I was really hurt, and it might have been my worst day of the first trimester. But overall, what I'm saying is first trimester was a total breeze for me and just full of a lot of excitement. But as I moved into weeks 20 through 25, the bumps started coming in. And I will be honest and say that it was a little bit awkward for me at first. It was that kind of stage where you're in between, where some people might be able to notice you're pregnant, but most people can't. Your body doesn't really feel the same. It feels like you could have a food baby sort of a thing. And I'm also really tall. So the baby had a lot of space. So I didn't really pop and have a bump until probably like week 28. I mean, it felt like forever, honestly. Like the bump took forever to come in. And I will say, I did not love the weird transitional period between having a bump and not having one. And this phase was where I felt the most uncomfortable in my body. But again, this is where it comes down to not being alone with my body. It's more discomfort in my body around other people. And to me, it brought up the old insecurities of being seen or being perceived in a certain way that felt similar more to the changes that happened to me during puberty than recovery itself, which surprised me because I did not expect to connect this experience to my feelings during puberty at all. But puberty was tough for me. And I think a lot of my eating disorder was rooted in the insecurity that came up during that time. So this stage was a little uncomfortable because I felt vulnerable and exposed, especially when I was around other people. And I kind of would sit there wondering if people were noticing the changes and if they would point it out or not. And when I was alone or with Dan, the changes were really exciting. Like I would take little bump pictures and I would get really excited. I'd save them on my phone. I'd share them with Dan and maybe if I was feeling confident, my family. But out in the world, I felt like everybody was waiting for me to pop and get some sort of bump. And this part kind of reminds me a little of recovery when clients have recently gained weight and they are really concerned about people noticing it. And they are convinced that everyone sees every small change and everyone's going to comment and everyone's going to criticize. It kind of felt similar in that way. And it all comes back to everything I've been unpacking about people pleasing and body image. That question is, would you be content with your body if you were alone on a private island or not? And for me, back during my eating disorder, I felt more self-conscious about my body around people than when I was alone. And this kind of is what I experienced during this awkward transitional stage. Of course, I did not experience heightened emotions about this. I did not experience deep body shame. I did not have any urges to act on any behaviors or change my body. I really stayed strong in knowing that this was a temporary phase and that I could also celebrate what my body was doing, right? So in this case, I am preparing to become a mom and have a baby, which is truly a miracle. And I was able to balance that sense of this is a miracle and there are moments I feel uncomfortable. And as this was happening, I anticipated comments about the bump to be really uncomfortable. But I also found that I was really happy when people commented on it and also a little sad when people didn't comment on it. So it was a strange little world I was living in, like having this body rapidly change in front of other people and observing with a strong sense of curiosity how I was going to relate all of this to recovery and relate it to what I talk about to my one-on-one clients. So again, I dreaded people noticing the changes, but I also felt kind of proud of myself and happy when they did. So commenting on people's bodies is such a cultural thing. And if I could impart any wisdom or takeaways from this experience and relate it to someone's recovery journey, it would be remember that you can experience two truths at the same time. You can feel uncomfortable in your body and also celebrate everything that is happening. So how you are working towards healing, how your body is getting stronger, celebrating the new abilities that your body has when it's fully nourished, right? So with me, it was holding on, to the discomfort I was feeling and also celebrating that this was all supporting my future of becoming a mom. And these body changes were helping me get to that place. And now that I'm 34 weeks along, the bump is just totally out there. And I really love having a bump. And it's been a really empowering stage for me in general. I would also say that this stage has been really identity affirming because it's helping me feel like a mom and prepare me to be a mom. People see me and they know that I'm going to be a mom, and I see myself and it feels more real. And I can also feel little Jack's movements every single day. He feels really strong. I'll talk to him. Dan will talk to him. And so having a bump has been really exciting towards the end. And about a month ago, I gave my first keynote speech ever. And let me emphasize keynote. Yes, I never even believed that this could be possible for me, honestly. But I was invited to be a keynote speaker, and I was flown out to Wisconsin to talk about the power of community and female friendship to the students and the alumni of the Lambda Kappa Sigma fraternity for women who are pharmacists. And it was a total dream come true for me. And the bump was out, and I dressed up as best as I can in a bright fuchsia colored caped dress. I had bright purple heels, bright purple earrings, and I felt amazing in my body. And it was definitely one of those moments where I felt so much joy to be a woman, to be pregnant, to be in a space of leadership and presenting a keynote, which I had worked so hard on. And that was a lifelong dream. And it was really exciting because it was a collision of two dreams. I nailed the keynote and felt so embodied during that talk. I had no nerves. I was really relaxed. I was about to also see my dream of becoming a mom come true in just a few weeks. And if I'm going to think symbolically for a second, I really feel like as I am giving birth to Jack and preparing to give birth to Jack, I am giving birth to this public speaking career and dream that I've always wanted and I've always imagined. And I feel so ready to step into both roles as I move forward and reach the due date. So this has been really a pleasure to experience and observe within my own life. Now, when it comes to cravings and pregnancy, I really didn't have many. And I think this is because since recovery, I've always had a strong sense of food freedom and permission to eat all foods. Many pregnant women seem to view pregnancy as their quote free pass to eat whatever they want in any quantity they want because they've maybe never allowed themselves to do that before. And I think this is a reaction that could be typical of someone who has lived with disordered eating or chronic dieting their entire life. But for me, that wasn't the case. There wasn't this sense of, oh, wow, I suddenly have food freedom because I already give myself permission to eat freely. And I definitely could feel that I was eating more, but this didn't come with any fear of weight gain or judgment. I noticed I seemed to want dessert more frequently and allowed myself to do that, but I never felt out of control or afraid or mad at myself for making certain choices. And I could see the level of body trust that I've developed over the years in full swing and how powerful my connection to intuitive eating actually is. So during my pregnancy, I have to go to the doctor pretty frequently. And every time I'm there, I get weighed and I step on the scale and I see the number. And I've seen that number go up consistently. And I've really been relaxed and unfazed and not worried about the number that I've seen. And this is because I trust that my body is getting what it needs to grow this little boy. And I'm also not worried at this point about the postpartum weight gain or pressure to lose weight because I truly believe that my body will land where it needs to be. And I think this has been such a gift. I know some people really worry about pregnancy weight gain, and that has not been on my mind at all. I definitely miss being able to engage in some exercise that I can no longer engage in. Like, I love cycle bar. I love being able to bike in a group class with loud music. It's so energizing for me, and I haven't been able to do that for weeks. So I am really excited postpartum to be able to bring fitness back into my life in the relaxed level that it's always been and reconnect to the people in the community and have that routine back in my life. And in reality, I am just approaching all of these body changes with, again, a sense of curiosity, a sense of excitement, a sense of gratitude, and trust, knowing that my body's going to end up exactly where it needs to be. And I'm bringing my self-compassion with me. So when I give birth and my body is unrecognizable, because that's what everyone tells me it's going to feel like when my body feels completely different or foreign to me, I have built up the tool of self-compassion to get me through it and remind myself that one big piece of healing body image is to be able to put everything into context. And going through this huge life change of becoming a mom, carrying a baby for 9 months, that's definitely context I will be viewing my body through for the rest of my life, right? So if I don't end up having the body that I had before pregnancy, first of all, I don't really expect that. But if for some reason I was upset about that, I always have to have self-compassion and recognize our bodies are changing the entire way. And I have done something beautiful with my body that has shown me even more of what my body can do. And I'm really, truly grateful for that. So obviously, I haven't had little Jack yet, but this is the mindset I plan on going into the postpartum days with. And finally, I do want to add one more update for all of you, and that is the biggest zinger that could have been a huge trigger for me if I got pregnant in my 20s. And that is 3 weeks ago, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes, which is basically a condition in which a hormone made by the placenta prevents the body from using insulin effectively. So glucose builds up in the blood instead of being absorbed by the cells. And unlike type 1 diabetes, gestational diabetes is not caused by a lack of insulin, but by other hormones produced during pregnancy that make insulin less effective. And so gestational diabetes symptoms actually disappear once the mom delivers. So once I give birth, the placenta will be out of my body and I will no longer have gestational diabetes. And lucky me, approximately 3 to 8% of all pregnant women in the United States are diagnosed with gestational diabetes. So I didn't win the lottery on that one. But essentially, what has been really interesting to me is that this needs to be managed during pregnancy through, you guessed it, diet. And essentially, I've been asked to limit my carbohydrates and added sugar and really embrace veggies, fats, and proteins. And as someone who has recovered from an eating disorder, I've really steered clear of checking nutrition labels, counting carbs, worrying about sugar for over a decade. So, being asked to do this is a massive change, and I'm so grateful for my recovery for being able to handle this in stride. I am not triggered by any of this at all. I am checking nutrition labels every day. I am being asked to track numbers by my doctor. I am testing my blood sugar after all meals. And I'm really just trying to take a fun scientific approach to this and feel detached from the number, which is a major practice that I always ask my one-on-one recovery clients to do when they are focusing a lot on numbers. And to be honest, I think I could easily let myself be ashamed of this, as if having gestational diabetes means I've done something wrong as a mom already. But none of this is truly in my control. What I have control over is really trying to manage it effectively to keep my baby healthy. And I'm having to prick my finger and test my glucose levels 4 times a day. And these numbers that I see, if they come back too high, I don't let that define me. And I dig into a deep sense of compassion and just let it go. I don't get too rigid. I don't beat myself up. I used to feverishly count calories and weigh myself every day and let those numbers impact my mood. But at this point, I have not felt any attachment to the numbers I've been forced to track. Even when my doctors ask me to show them the numbers, I just plainly hand them over and we talk through them. I have to explain the numbers that, maybe were higher and what I ate. And I don't really feel shame in that. I just feel flexible. And this has been truly amazing for me to experience, especially someone who, really had to work on healing my relationship with numbers and tracking and nutrition labels so many years ago. There are times I really feel like all of this is unfair, like going to the grocery store and not letting myself buy ice cream for the first time in a decade because it would really be bad for gestational diabetes. And at this point, grocery shopping takes a little bit longer and it's a little bit more of a bummer because I miss some of my favorite foods. I've always had a sweet tooth, but I do have the privilege of knowing that this is temporary. And I have a first cousin who has type 1 diabetes. He's had it since he was 2 years old, and he's been having to live with an insulin pump and injecting insulin his entire life. So I just want to acknowledge that my situation is not that situation. It is not the same. And it is something that I only have to live with temporarily. And I am truly grateful again for my health privilege and being able to approach this in a little bit of a observational, lighthearted way, where for some people diabetes can really be life threatening. So just wanted to put that out there. It has been a challenge for me for sure, but I also am putting that into context and recognizing that I'll get through this and it's going to be okay. And finally, I want to say that my favorite part about being pregnant, besides having a little bundle of joy by the end of all of this, has been the mother community that has appeared out of nowhere that clearly has been rallying behind each other for centuries, and I had no idea about until I joined the club. Motherhood can be to those who experience it. And I have been blown away by the moms who have reached out to me for support, or how so many moms go out of their way to help me, or it is to share their secondhand baby clothes or maternity clothes or baby gear with me. I swear I've only purchased a handful of maternity clothes, and my entire wardrobe has been built by friends and family donations at this point, which is really incredible. And I wish non-pregnant people could rally around each other this way as well, because it's been so beautiful and eye-opening to me. And when I walk down the street and I'm clearly pregnant, the ladies seem to smile at me more, and I sense a feeling of connection to them and relatability, no matter who they are and what their background is. And I'm truly looking forward to connecting with the mom community when I actually have my child. It seems like there's an active mom community in West Hartford, the town I live in. And so seeing my son grow up here, connected to a community of moms and their kids, is going to be truly amazing for me, because community is a strong value of mine. So I am so ready and so excited for that. And that, my friends, is the latest from me. And chances are the next time you get a personal update episode, I will officially be a mom with my little guy, and I can tell you how that's going, along with other things. And I am just so grateful for all of you listeners. You make me happy to be doing this day to day. I love hearing your feedback. I love reading your reviews. If this was a helpful episode for you, I encourage you to share it with someone who might need to hear it. And I am so grateful to be a part of the Full and Thriving community, and to have this place where I can share about my experiences open and honestly with all of you. So my hope is that something I said today clicked with you, maybe inspired you, helped you feel more motivated and connected to your why, which could be maybe being a mother one day. So with that, again, I just want to express my gratitude for all of you for being here. And I will see you all next time on the Full and Thriving podcast.
All right, that concludes this week's episode of the Full and Thriving podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the show. When you have a moment, please head on over to Instagram and follow my recovery coaching account at Meg_McCabe to stay up to date on everything I'm doing in recovery land. And if you're feeling extra inspired, please send me a direct message to let me know how this podcast has impacted your life. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week.